All right, let's talk a little bit about metrics. Metrics really give your work context. Honestly, if you just say that you manage a budget, I don't know if it's a $10 budget or a $10 million one. If you don't use metrics and you say you supervise people, I don't know if it's one person or 100 people. I don't know if it's people spread over 4 states. So really quantifying your work is critical to giving context and scope to your work. Because again, HR doesn't know you, they don't know your work. And the complexity of your work is clearly more significant if it's a $10 million budget than if it is a $10 budget. And so you've got to communicate that, and metrics are hugely helpful for communicating that. And so when you're thinking about metrics, think about how many, how much, how often, how many times, how many people, how many states, how much in the way of dollars and everything else. How often do you do it? Weekly, quarterly, monthly, annually. So if you think about your work in the context of how many, how much, and how often, you can really start to generate some metrics. And this is something else you should be tracking. And as I mentioned, I think it is critical that each of us write an accomplishment report or a self-assessment as part of our annual performance management process, whether or not our supervisor requires it. And if we write those kinds of reports, we will have those numbers 2 years from now, or 5 years from now, or even next month when we need them. Because it's awfully hard to remember even a month ago what we did and what all the nuances were in terms of numbers. So I'm a huge fan of using metrics. People do you support if you're a support person? How many states do you cover? How many different laws and regs do you interpret and apply? Something else that I think is important is including accomplishments. It's not enough to say you do something or you did something. You have to show that what you did added value. So let me give you an example. Sometimes people say to me, well, I created a spreadsheet. My response to that is, does anybody use that spreadsheet? Do the formulas add up? So what that you created a spreadsheet? Who cares? How did that make a difference to the employer? Maybe that spreadsheet replaced manual processes. Maybe it reduced errors by 10%. Maybe it was so well received that it has been adopted throughout your work unit. It's really critical that your achievements demonstrate the so what. Saying that you manage a budget is not an achievement. That is a duty. And while duties are important, I want to know that you have managed that budget effectively and well. So what you manage that budget? And I would advocate that the best way to communicate the so what is to think CCAR. Context, challenge, action, results. Context, challenge, action, results. So let me give you an example. In just 3 weeks, put together a professional conference for 200 attendees identified logistics, developed agenda, issued invitations, and recommended speakers. Conference was a huge success. It was completed on budget, and participant ratings averaged 3.8 on a 4-point scale. So, what was the challenge? In just 3 weeks, I had a compressed time frame. What were my actions? Putting together the conference for 200 attendees, identifying logistics, developing an agenda, issuing invitations, and recommending speakers. What were the results? It was completed on budget, and ratings averaged 3.8 on a 4-point scale. Now, what's the context? If you are attaching this accomplishment to a specific job, then the context is the job you were in. But you can see how much more powerful it is to have this level of detail than to just have an accomplishment that said, put together a conference. If all it says is you put together a conference, it begs the question about whether that conference was any good. We really need to be thinking about what we do and how it adds value. What differentiates you from the people sitting on the other side of your cubicle wall who frankly are doing pretty much exactly what you do? And I hear a lot from people when I have this discussion that, well, I just do my job. How do you do your job differently? Why do people value you in doing your job? What sets you apart? Those are the things we need to be thinking about, because your resume is a marketing document. This is what you are using to sell yourself to potential employers. And if you don't think you add value, why are you even bothering to apply? And so it takes time, and a lot of times we forget what we do, which is why it is so important, of course, that we keep track of what we've done. And again, no one cares more about you getting a promotion or your career path or your growth than you do. This is our responsibility.